What's up YouTube, I'm the Planet Rocks, and welcome back to another playthrough of Requiesence. So I'd like to remind you, just subscribe to my channel, hit the bell for notifications, and please do like this video. You can also follow me on Twitter, you can follow me on Twitch, you can also like and follow my page on Facebook. So thank you, and let's begin. Coralt and Call are already arguing as they wait for Coralt's men to pack up. And Damian. He's gotten involved in the argument too, and I can see him bristling as he grumbles at Coralt. I already missed the peaceful silence I had when I was traveling alone. At the same time, though, I feel safer knowing I have some people to travel with, even if they're all a little volatile. Mage Brat, we're leaving. Coralt's sharp voice rings out towards me as he impatiently motions from where he stands by the group. I'm coming. Listen to me, obeying this guy as happily as if he's my own mother right after he tried to kill me. I guess it's not really like I have a choice. Talk about a bizarre turn of events. Taking a deep breath, I hurry to where everyone's gathered, and we head off into the darkness of the tunnel ahead. The tunnel eventually leads back into a stone hallway, cold and dark. We continue on in stark silence, save for the thudding of many heavy boots. One of Coralt's men carries a torch, and its soft crackling also chimes through the thick air. I move over to Damian's side as soon as I can. We may not be best friends, but at least I can trust him more than the others. Coralt and Call walk a little bit ahead of us, and Coralt's men are surrounding us on all sides. However, a few of them look friendlier than the others. In particular, the gray-haired man and the one with the light, spiky hair stay close to us.
Thank the gods that mage came when he did. I tried to do what I could, but there's no reasoning with Coralt when he's like that.
He offers me an apologetic look, running a hand through his ruffled hair. I can still barely believe what happened.
We'll do our best to make sure he doesn't try to pull it again. And hopefully he'll be distracted by his arch enemy over there anyway.
I'm Lake, by the way, and this dashing fellow is Riz.
He motions to the gray-haired man, who bows playfully. I'm Kymeel.
Kymeel, huh? My pleasure.
He winks boldly at me, and I reflexively avert my gaze. I'd say it was my pleasure too, but I'm not so sure in these circumstances. Who's that one over there? Damian nods towards the older-looking man walking near Call.
Him? He's Althar, our crossbowman who knows far too much about everything, including magic, to the boss's displeasure.
I watch Althar's back curiously. He seems to be exchanging quiet words with Call, who nods now and then. Does he know him? Before I have a chance to ask either of the men any more questions, Call's strong voice suddenly echoes back to us.
With the cathedral's magic in such a dangerous state, the illusions and creatures have become much more unpredictable.
They may have been only annoyances before, but now they're very real threats.
And how do you propose to deal with these threats?
Coralt's cold tone makes Call break into a wry grin.
I told you. It's necessary that we stick together.
With our varied skill sets, we can manage much more easily. Besides, Coralt, haven't you always secretly dreamed of working with me? At that, the very air around Coralt seems to darken. I don't think I've ever seen so much hate in a man's eyes. Just because my men fear you doesn't mean I do.
Keep talking like that and I'll slit your throat the moment you turn your back.
Call clicks his tongue, chidingly, giving a sigh like an exasperated parent. Don't forget now, my eyes are everywhere. Coralt tenses suddenly, turning his head in the opposite direction. Eyes? What is he talking about? I know he's a powerful mage, but there aren't many spells that provide clairvoyance without a huge number of components.
Enough cryptic rubbish. Tell us what's happening to the cathedral.
Damian interrupts the brief silence, glaring at Call and Corral. Call blinks, glancing over his shoulder in Damian's direction, as if he just now acknowledged Damian's existence.
Huh? And who might you be?
I'm Damian, but that's neither here nor there. I want to know how you found out about this magic crumbling business. His tone is firm as he rests his hands on his hips while we walk. Call's surprise seems to fade after a moment, but he gazes towards Damian for a few seconds before turning his head away. Well, sir, I did promise you all an explanation. He smooths his hair back with a hand and inhales deeply.
You see, it started when I was deeper in the tunnels, pursuing Geralt.
Pursuing him?
I still don't understand. Why was Geralt running away from Call when he had so many men at his disposal? Unless Call really is that powerful. Indeed, we go way back, you see. Geralt says nothing to confirm or deny Call's words, and just broods in an irritated silence. Not sparing him a glance, Call continues. However, I wasn't expecting to encounter him at the cathedral. We came here entirely independently. So imagine my surprise when I see a familiar, pouting face from 8 or so years ago, timed perfectly to impede on my research progress.
Impede? I was here long before you were, idiot mage.
That's debatable.
Besides, you're just here to loot. I'm here to uncover the secrets of this place. After dismissing Geralt's words with a wave of his hand, Call continues his story.
Naturally, I wanted to get rid of him and his pests, so that I could continue my work in peace.
And so the last few days have been rather full of conflict, one might say.
Did he really just call us pests?
I don't mean any offense, but
I hesitate, trying to figure out how exactly to convey my words.
aren't you one man against Geralt's many?
To my surprise, it's Geralt who throws a glare over his shoulder at me and hisses out a reply. Call is a feared mage throughout much of the land.
His power is far greater than yours will ever be.
Now, no need to bring flattery into this, Geralt.
Besides, don't put down the little aspiring boy here. I was once a hot-headed, impatient, unskillful young man, and look where I've gotten. What is with these two? That fireball from earlier may have been impressive, but if all Geralt's men had charged at Call at once, surely they would have captured him. Unless he has some sort of power that I don't know about.
Quit your incessant egotistical prattling and finish your damn explanation.
Damian interjects again, clearly impatient. I can't blame him. Their bantering never seems to end. But Call doesn't seem to mind, and just gives a light nod of his head.
As I was saying, I was in the process of chasing Geralt's men back towards the entrance.
However, as I entered an intersection of paths, I noticed something odd. Call's expression darkened somewhat, the line of his brow deepening in a frown.
Doors that were previously shut had begun to decay.
He says the word slowly and reluctantly, as if it left a bad taste in his mouth. The stone itself is melting away, in odd and unnatural patterns. Beyond that, I encountered a specter roaming the halls, creatures normally kept caged in by the magic of the doors. Its form was full of a wild and violent magic, unlike the ones I've witnessed in the past. They were usually calm and contained, lifelike images meant to mimic reality.
But this creature, once, I think, it had the form of a man. But its shape had twisted into something more like a beast, with wide jaws and claws for hands, eyes bulging unnaturally.
I try to picture what Call's describing in my head. Luckily, I didn't encounter anything like that on my way here. And unlike any of the other illusionary creations, the beast lunged as soon as it saw me. Call pauses hesitantly, then gives a quick shake of his head.
Well, after I dispatched it, I retraced my steps to look for other signs of unstable magic.
And sure enough, it was seeping throughout the cathedral like cracks spreading through thin ice.
You must have seen traces of it, but not known what it was.
He's right. Those patches on the door that I saw, and on the monk, those were the same signs he must be talking about. I noticed those odd splotches on some of the beasts that I had to fight on the way here. Damian shoots me a pointed glare, then redirects his gaze towards Call. But there were other odd signs too. We passed a strange chamber with windows that seemed to show a forest outside, just before the second altar. But I couldn't tell if the cathedral was trying to play tricks on us or not. Makes you paranoid, this place. Call gives a curt nod. The magic here is normally very clever from my research.
The cathedral once had a set structure, one that was formed from magical rooms and mimicked forests, all artificially created and attached to each other.
But for it to put a forest in such an odd place, so close to the entrance, well, it certainly suggests the magic isn't working how it's supposed to.
So, as time goes on, you think the cathedral structure will become more and more chaotic?
Again, Call dips his head in grave confirmation of my words. From what I've read, there was originally a message and lesson to be found in the journey through here. But now, I fear it will all soon be lost. When Call grows quiet, no one else speaks up. The only sound is our footsteps echoing quietly in the dim tunnel. At last, Geralt inhales quietly and grimaces, speaking in his usual cool tone.
If what you say is true, then I don't know if we'll be able to make it out in time.
I've never gotten to the third altar, but I assume that there are at least several more. Geralt shoots Call a flat, questioning look. The red-haired mage doesn't acknowledge his glance, but instead lifts his shoulders in a gentle shrug. I haven't ventured past the third altar either. I doubt we've seen the last of them, though.
Assuming the speed of the decaying magic doesn't increase too rapidly, we should be able to escape before the structure itself crumbles around us.
He breaks into a sudden sadistic smirk, as if a terribly funny thought had popped into his head.
But the magic itself might have some effect on us while we're here. Who knows? Geralt might even awake one morning with some sort of magical talent.
Hey, what? I'd been lost in my thoughts, trying to remember what that number meant, and I suddenly bump against Geralt's back. He stopped walking and is standing dead still. The rest of his men quickly stop too. Call walks a few more paces forward before he pauses to turn around questioningly. Before I have a chance to ask what's going on, Geralt abruptly unsheaths a large dagger that had been hanging at his side. As soon as I blink, the tip of the dagger is already pressed to Call's throat.
Watch your tongue.
When we're done with this ridiculous alliance, I'll cut it off and shove it down your throat. His voice is frigid as ice, and yet it doesn't seem to faze Call in the slightest. Instead, the smirk on his lips only widens, and he lifts a hand to bat away Geralt's blade with a casual shrug.
Some bold words for someone so afraid of magic.
Call doesn't just dismiss Geralt with a wave of his hand. He starts walking again, giving off an air so laid back that it seems to stun the dark-haired man who's still holding his dagger in the air. Clearly, these two have some sort of intense history together. Why is magic such a sore point for Geralt?
I've never seen anyone get Geralt so riled up.
Riz's amazed whisper comes from beside me. You mean he's not normally like this? He shakes his head, stroking his fingers contemplatively along the stubble of his cheeks.
The boss is normally quite laid back. Ever since we've come here, though, he's been so out of sorts. Puts me on edge. I feel like there must be something unseen at play here.
With those ominous words, he falls silent, and a certain apprehension grips me as we start to walk again. Maybe he's just talking about Geralt, but I feel like there's another meaning behind his words. Especially since I've been uneasy too, ever since I came here. We walk a little further, and eventually I approach Call's side. Despite the unpleasant confrontation earlier, he seems about as satisfied as a cat having trapped its prey. His expression is bright, with a complacent, idle smile as he walks along. I'm not sure what he'd think if I asked him questions about Geralt, but I'm too curious to just stay silent.
Call?
At my hesitant words, Call abruptly turns his face downward a little in my direction, his eyes gazing past me in their odd way.
What is it, little mage?
His slightly condescending tone grates on my nerves a bit, but I force my pride down for the moment. Why are you and Geralt so bitter about each other? He seems to really hate you. Call chuckles quietly, reaching a hand down to suddenly tousle my hair. The touch of his fingers is oddly hot, warm enough that I can feel it against my scalp. Geralt hates all mages, Camille, a bitterness that lingers from his time living in Nahor, the desert city. Nahor is said to be home to the greatest mage academy in the Empire. It's a well-known fact that practically everyone in the city has some sort of magical ability. I thought only mages lived there. I throw a quick glance over my shoulder, but I can't see Geralt in the group of men. It's too dark. That's exactly right. A slightly dark look in Call's eyes makes me shy away from the topic, so I decide to change it.
Where did you study magic? At Nahor?
My question makes Call chuckle again, the faint strain leaving his features.
For a brief period of time, yes.
But you see, my particular brand of magic is so unruly that I largely had to teach myself. My magical accidents usually involve quite a remarkable amount of destruction. I can't help but feel like he's boasting instead of being self-deprecating. To be precise, I have an unfortunate disability that inhibits me somewhat. And that is? I feel a little awkward about asking so directly, but my curiosity is too intense for me to just let it pass. Call smooths his fiery hair back from his forehead with one hand and pauses for a moment, glancing down at me again. I look into his unfocused, bright green gaze for a long few seconds. Wait, no, he can't mean...
I am entirely blind.
Your grandmother, standing inside of a dark room, could see more than I can with my eyes. It takes a moment for me to entirely process his words. He seems to know his surroundings so confidently. How is that remotely possible?
Is your sense of hearing incredibly developed or something like that?
I nervously try to search his gaze, but I can tell now that the unfocused look isn't just my imagination. He really must be blind. My heart skips a beat. He's probably over 30 winters old, but he's certainly no elderly man. And yet it's incredibly rare for anyone to be born blind. Call seems to sense my confusion, and he reaches towards my head to give another absent tousle of my hair, smirking faintly. You must think I'm quite a freak. It's rather unusual for a man of my sprightly youth to be without his sight, after all. Luckily, fire has no need for the precision that comes with sight. It simply destroys everything in its path.
But you act like you can see people.
Well, I have a general ability to sense body heat, and a few other party tricks that help me figure out my surroundings. So he senses the world around him rather than seeing it with his eyes. Amazing. Suddenly I feel a tap on my right shoulder and I glance back to see Damian giving me an intent look.
We're in a right mess now, aren't we?
Despite his bitter words, his tone carries an almost jovial nature, as if he's resigned himself to the weirdness of the situation. I hope you're thinking about a way to keep that crazy bastard from coming after you whenever your back is turned to him. He jerks his chin in Coral's direction, then eyes me curiously. Better he's got it out for you than me, I suppose. His attention then turns to Call and he raises his eyebrows.
Thanks for saving our hides earlier, Sir Mage. I would have been nothing but an aesthetically pleasing splatter on the ground by now if not for you.
Think nothing of it. I'm always happy to seize any opportunity to see Corral to foam at the mouth.
Well, you'll get plenty more, I'm sure. Between you and Kymil, the poor man's going to pop a vein.
If there are any angry spirits further on, hopefully he'll target his anger towards one of them instead.
Call lets out an amused snort. You'd better hope we run into something soon, then. It's not unlikely, though. I could sense the presence of other beings not far from the third altar. Eh? Did they give off an unsociable air? Something like that. We walk along for a while longer, and I'm content to listen to Damian and Call chatter on idly about the dangers of the cathedral. Eventually, the cave-like tunnel begins to widen up into a normal hallway. Alrighty guys, I think that about does it. Yeah, I know nothing like really action-oriented happened, but I'm trying to keep these episodes a little bit shorter. So yeah, thank you again for joining me. I will obviously have a video uploaded next week around the same time. Again, I am the Planet Rocks. Be sure to subscribe to my channel, hit the bell for notifications, and do like this video. You can follow me on Twitch and Twitter, and also be sure to like and follow my Facebook page. Thank you very much, and I'll see you next week.